how is Saka doing as captain since Odegaard's injury? I don't know what that
He's
means.
doing good. We're winning games. We're going away to big grounds and getting results, and we're leaving. I'm happy.
It's a great segue. That's a great segue to the next topic. Hang on. Speaking of Gooners, Trimless Gooner is here with us now. Yes, bruv. How are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm good. Obviously, KJ
Good,
was a
good,
bit
good.
slow in the link. I'm not late. No black man timing around here, guys.
I was on KJ. I let KJ is backstage. That is going in your monthly 1-to-1, KJ. We'll be noting that down.
I didn't mean to snitch. I didn't mean to snitch.
So that's all right. It's all right. It was better.
By the way, Terry,
Go on.
did you see what's going on in Arsenal Twitter? There's an infighting between the fan base talking about we don't miss Odegaard. People saying stuff like we don't miss Odegaard, or are we better without Odegaard? And there are cases we're better on the transition without him. And there's certain people who have Odegaard agendas, Odegaardisms, and they're basically saying his weakness is on the transition and we shouldn't play him in games where we want to play on the transition.
Okay. Well, what's your take on that?
I think it's ridiculous. I think Odegaard's strengths is what we are the best at. When we have possession in the final third, we're recycling and we need that extra creator to create those chances. Yes, he might have a weakness on the transition in the sense where he might not be as fast as other players on the transition, but overall, his strengths in helping us create in the final third and how much he brings to our attack is so needed at times. And you see it in some of those games when the quality of chances that he creates compared to Leandro Trossard. Although I like Leandro Trossard and what he did versus who was it again? PSG. How many times a game do you see Odegaard pick out a pass like that or pick out a pass in the game that breaks the defense? Probably 4 or 5 times a game. And that's more needed in majority of the games. But hey, I think the credit goes to Arteta, making him almost like somebody who we don't miss as much, even though he's one of the best players in the team.
He leads the press as well, doesn't he? That's one of his biggest attributes. The fact that he leads the press. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you got to give more praise to Arteta because ever since you've used the dark arts, people have lost their minds. This is what Jose, Conte, Simeone, all these defensive-minded, pragmatic coaches have made careers and won endless trophies out of it. I think this is what I've criticised Ange for. He doesn't have a game plan, like a plan B. Arteta does. And so far, you've gone to City, Villa, and Spurs and won 2 out of your 3 away games so far this season. And you got a draw in Atalanta. And you've won against PSG. Like, yeah, I think when he comes back and Mourinho's fully fit, you'll be a lot better. But I don't think you can really compare the side with or without Odegaard because the numbers speak for themselves. He's got a lot more goals with him than without him.
By the way, anyone who thinks I'm making this up, there's a cult following behind this account named No New Things. You guys probably heard of him. He's a nutcase. Basically,
Gal, I would say, Gal, I don't think anybody other than a troll thinks you're making that up. I mean, I've definitely seen these conversations going. I've seen it on podcasts. I've seen it on Twitter. It's there. Do you know what I find really interesting about it is there's a few things. I think Henry's right. We saw people say earlier about what if Haaland was out for City. The first thing we would all go to is Pep will find a way. Now, before anybody loses their minds, because we know that happens online, I'm not suggesting that Arteta is as good as Pep. But when Odegaard got injured, whether you're a detractor of Arteta or someone that praises him, there was almost universal meltdowns. The season is over. Oh my God, we're done. It's already finished. Odegaard's out. Your manager has found a way to keep you winning and keep you into a very good position in the league and in the Champions League. So you're right. He does deserve praise for that because he's found the way of getting you through this period of injuries and players being out. I don't think it's this whole idea of do you miss Odegaard, do you not miss Odegaard? It's like that weird question of what's our best 11? I don't believe the question should be, well, there should be a return to that question, which is who are we playing, home or away? Because when you're away against Man City, it may be a different 11 that you pick for being at home versus Brighton. I don't think there is necessarily you've got your best 11 players on paper, but as we all know, football matches, some debates we do on paper as fans, of course, but football matches are not played on paper. It's about getting the best out of your team. And I think that there'll be times where, I mean, when Ben White comes back, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because I think Timber and Calafiori have looked good in those positions as an example. Odegaard will, of course, come back into your team. But I think there's an element of truth to, or maybe when you are playing more transition football, you could have Odegaard on the bench for some games. But this is something Arsenal fans have got to prepare themselves for. It isn't a case of either or either. It's both. The best teams in the world have to learn to rotate. When Man United were at our pomp, City fans will know this because they've gone through it. Chelsea fans in their pomp have gone through this. Sometimes I've tuned into a game when Fergie was here. I'm excited. And I'm like, why is Giggs on the bench? Why is Scholes not playing? Why is Rooney on the bench today? Happen regularly. Because sometimes you bend and change and twist to get the best out of your squad. And I actually think the biggest one of the biggest criticism of Arteta in the past couple of seasons is he may have been a bit too rigid and always played the same players and maybe burnt some of them out a little bit. So I wouldn't entertain that debate from a perspective of we don't miss him at all or we completely miss him. I think it's demonstrated you can cope without him. So you should now encourage at the right times more rotation, especially to keep the sort of energy and sort of the air in the lungs of these players as you get to the back end of the season. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad conversation to have. I just don't think the correct answer is a polarized one at the end of each spectrum. I think there is balance that's needed here. And this period has probably been very good for Arteta to assess players like Trossard starting regularly in that role. And I think it's given you more options, not bigger headaches, in my opinion.
100%.
Thank you for tuning in to the Arsenal Terrace. To everyone who's tuning in. So it's what I think. I see the debates, but I don't know. I just don't necessarily think there needs to be a war about it. But that again, I'm an outsider looking in. It isn't my. I do get it. I don't think about Arsenal like Egal and Trimless do because I don't love your football club. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't look at it through that. Yeah, I don't. But it's like, and you'll get this, Egal. You've recently become a father. You the way you think about your own, that when you're out with your missus and you might be somewhere, maybe your baby starts making a bit of noise. Are you a little bit like, oh, I've got to keep the baby quiet because other people are drinking their coffee or they're doing their shopping, etc. But when you didn't have a child, you probably barely noticed that noise, but you notice it now it's your kid, right? Like you're hyper focused on it. I feel it's the same difference in many, many ways. What about the rest of the panel, David? Do you think this is an argument that Arsenal fans should be having? Is it healthy for the club or what?
I mean, it's an interesting take because Arsenal's production hasn't really gone down without him. But that I don't think that correlation means that Odegaard's not a good player. I think they should be very happy about is without one of our best players, we've gone to the hardest grounds we're probably going to go to this year, maybe minus 2 or 3 other games, and we've come away with 7 points. So when he's back, we should be even better because no one's going to sit here and tell me that Odegaard's not in their best 11. So, and also he's their club captain. I've just been laughed at because my club captain's played 4 games. So I don't see why he'd have an argument about let's bench my club captain and put in some and roll with what we're currently doing. Like it doesn't make sense to me. But
I'll get you on that.
You know, people love just arguing.
Yeah, no, I don't know about the Gooners on the panel. Is this an element of there are a percentage of Arsenal fans who have never wanted Odegaard, didn't like Odegaard, and this is almost an opportunity to say, well, I told you weren't that good. We're just as good without him. Do you think there's an element of that in this?
I think Odegaard is our best player, bro. That's crazy. The way he just makes things tick and so like consistently as well. People say he goes missing in big games just because he might not contribute to the GA. I hear that. But in terms of how we structure our attack through Arteta, and obviously props to Arteta for having to transform and do his thing recently. But it's like the recency bias in football is crazy. Like, it's like, okay, we've had 2-3 games of no Odegaard. How can you even question, we played? No, bro, we've not seen the last previous 2 seasons. And I'm just going to end there. Like, what are we doing here? Like, let's just chillax, man. The recency bias is crazy.
Do you think he's more important than Saliba?
When there's...
So I think if Saliba gets injured, I don't. I think you.
I hear you still.
Got defensive options, but I think that's the game.
Nah, he's still obviously. I think because we have more depth in attack, then Saliba's more important because of the depth, not because he outperforms Odegaard.
Question for the panel. Who's the best team in the Premier League right now? And I'm talking so far this season, based on their victories, their defeats, their style, all things being equal, Ram, who do you think has been the best team in the Premier League so far this season? Is it Arsenal? Is it Liverpool? Is it City? Or is it somebody else?
What was the team at the top? It was Liverpool. I'm sorry. We got one of the highest goals scored, and we've got the least goals conceded. Mix those together, you got yourself the best team in the league. Sorry, it is what it is. We've played very, very good football where we've limited opponents to getting shots on our goal, let alone good chances. And we've been playing scintillating football at times where we should be smacking teams 4-5-0, but we haven't. So, by that logic, we are overall the best team in the league, and the table don't lie.
How many games you lost this season, bro?
1.
It's more than that.
Say no more.
Look at the team.
By the way, we lost the league by losing 1 game. Just letting you know.
I didn't ask about the past. I just asked about.
No. I know where you're going with it.
I'm just saying.
Not losing a game doesn't mean you're the best team in the league. Like
being at the top 7 games in doesn't mean
finish like 87 points, but then Chelsea beat your points record.
But bro, being at the top 7 games doesn't mean that either. So I was just doing the U thing, innit? Really.
Terry asked who's the best team at this very moment, bro.
I think
you generally think it's Liverpool, hand on heart.
Yeah, I genuinely do.
I've got to, again. I think I'm gonna agree with Ram. I can't lie. I think Liverpool have been far and away the best team in the Premier League so far. And partly is because right now they've probably got the best defense in the league. I know people love talking about Gabriel, Saliba, Calafiore, all these guys, but ultimately they've conceded 2 goals the whole season. All right, and 7 games in, that's very good. Now their attack's no joke. Is it the best? No, we've already had that discussion, but it's still a very good attack. Mo Salah's still getting, his output. So it's not like that they can't do anything. Gravenberch has probably been one of the best holding midfielders in the league. And one thing that they do have over Arsenal, discipline. They haven't played with 10 men twice. And I know, oh my God, yes, we didn't lose those games, blah. At the same time, is it a good thing you keep getting red cards? No, it's not. And they haven't, apart from the 1 game against Forest, which they dominated, but they not dominated, but they probably should have at least scored a goal to make it a draw, and they lost it. Apart from that 1 slip-up, they've been the better team in every single game they've played. So I'm actually going to agree with Ramsey. Liverpool are the best team.
I think you've got to apply more context here.
Yeah.
Arsenal played Villa, City, and Spurs. They've played 2 of those games with 10 men. Both when they had both men sent off, they were winning those games. Let's be real. And this isn't the Arsenal Terrace or Henry Talks Arsenal. This is just context. If Arsenal have 11 men against Brighton or 11 men against City, they probably would beat Brighton and score another couple of goals. And Man City had them on the ropes for 10 minutes, and City looked rattled. Liverpool have been phenomenal this season, and Terry and the panel will tell you, I've given them a lot of props. However, the only really difficult game they've played is Man United away, and by all means they slapped them, and that should have been 4 or 5. But they've played Bournemouth at home, Forest at home, Wolves away, Ipswich away, and Brentford at home. Whereas Arsenal have played Villa away, Arsenal away, Spurs away. I think they've had the tougher games, but
the run is coming.
Liverpool's defensive record speaks for itself, and they've been very good. But I personally believe if Arsenal have 11 men on the pitch those 2 games, they're currently top of the league. And that's not Henry Talks Arsenal or the Arsenal Terrace. That's just an opinion.
I would say on that,